First thing you need to do is tap a piece of stock brass. The tap I'm using is an 832 tap. Always make sure that you're using cutting fluid when you're tapping, and always make sure that the tap is horizontal or 90 degrees, 180 degrees, no, 90 degrees to the material. So once you're finished that tap, you should have a perfect thread available. Next thing you do is you pick a piece of stock brass. It's probably about a 1/4 inch on that brass, nice thick, nice and heavy, and then you've got to draw out the particular pattern of the balance tack on the end for cutting. Using the previous tack as a reference, measured it like this and put a little dot where the right there where the tack would be, and then the other tack would be separated by the first tack, one being for bigger watches and the second one being for smaller watches. Flipped that around, measured where that tack would be, and then drew a line at the base. And when I cut this, I'm going to cut this down to this point here, which leaves me the rest of this metal to secure the metal onto the drill when I go to drill those holes, because I want them exactly in the center. So that's how it's going to work. The plate on the bandsaw, then you drill a couple of holes with a 1/8 inch drill, and you're all ready for tapping. And what you do for tapping is I've got a Watchmakers lathe here. I've got a tailstock here that's got a flat area here, so I want to put that against the flat area. And then I've got my tap on I think it's like a 45 collet, nicely squeezed in there nicely. And I just hold it, I can actually hold it on there and then rotate the tap a bit and then back it off, rotate it a bit, back it off, rotate it a bit. And all the while I'm using cutting fluid as I try to cut through the hole. So that's how you do it. And I'm going to tap the other hole. I've got the tap working perfectly, and this brass bar goes in nicely into the tap, as you can see. That fits perfectly, and it's got enough grip at the end of the tap. So the next job will be to knock out these centers here on both sides, and then I've got to work on my lathe, and I got to measure the exact distance I want this. So again, one side is going to be for large and medium pocket watches, and the other side is going to be for smaller pocket watches and watches. So I'll have a dual purpose balance tack here. So I got to cut the measure this off and then put it in the lathe and then trim it down, and that's pretty much it. That is a perfect tap for the fit, so it's perfectly vertical on all planes, which is really good, because I had to lean into this tap on the top big time to get that to be vertical. As you can see, I even bent my tap a bit by putting both hands on it to cut the metal, and again using a lot of the cutting oil. So this goes in perfectly on this side, and it goes in, this side goes in the other side, and I've already marked the height where I'll start graving off the tack, the pin part of the tack. So it'll be narrow to thick from there to there. So that is the evil plan. Double tack time. And now you've got to cut the pointy part of the balance tack. I got it set to 5-degree cut on the taper, and all you do is move that in by small increments while you're running the lathe, and then wheel that in slowly, like so. And it's going to take material off at that taper. When finished, we should have about 5-degree taper on that, and we'll see if that works. This is a trial cut. This is not the part with the threads in the bottom. So I'm just trying out to see what the taper looks like on this cut. So. Alright, there's a taper cut. Did a brilliant job here. That's the original. And as you can see, this is very close. And I want this to be able to hold the balance cock on this here, and I may take a little bit more off, but not much more. So that's a good job. I've got to use the two of these whatever they're called, jobby-do spindle things. You turn one while you're turning the other one, so it gets a sort of a curved taper cut. Okay, so now we're going to cut this taper. It's around a 5-degree taper, and you cut it by moving the graver up to this position, and then you snug it in, and then you slowly move it back as you're cutting, and then you move the graver inward as you go back onto the part. And I'm going to be doing this until I've got myself a tack that's completed. Alright, it's looking a lot better. It's got the second tack in there. I should be smoothing out the edges of this one here somehow, but anyway, it's functional. The second tack's a little smaller than or lower than the other one, so it's going to be used for smaller watches. So now I just have to remove those center slices out. Alright, after a whole lot of work, I use a Dremel tool to shine it up. I use a Dremel tool to put the curve on it here on this side and this side, and also to clean up the edges here. I also use a Dremel tool to round out all the corners, so it doesn't have any sharp edges at all. So I Dremeled the crap out of this thing, so it's looking pretty good now. It's got a nice shine to it. So it's just have to put in the tacks themselves. Okay, there we have it. This is the balance tack. It's a dual balance tack. This one is a bit higher than this one. This one is made for pocket watches size 18, 16, and perhaps 12. And this would be made for perhaps 12, 6, and 0 pocket watches, and probably also for watches. And the idea here is that the balance rests on the brass, and the spring, the hairspring, then is not stretched. So if you have to store the balance for a little while longer than you want to, then you're not going to stress the hairspring and stretch it out of position. So the roller table and the lower pivot drop right through the hole here, and the same on the other side. So this is the idea behind this particular device. It works really well, and that's how I built it. I just 2 more things to do. I need to tighten those the tacks on here, and I built those on a lathe as you saw earlier. And then I think that's about it. I don't have support legs on it right now. I just have 4 chunks of Rodico. I had the pad on the other one. Let me bring this one into play here. I had the little pad on the other one. I may put a pad on this one, although it kind of kills the look. But I may put a pad on this one as well. And that just helps the lower pivot from hitting metal, which if you lower that balance onto the balance tack, then it could hit the metal here, and perhaps, if you're not careful, damage the lower pivot. The other thing I might do is just go to the dollar store and get those little stick-on legs. They're little plastic things, and they actually don't move, which is great. So it's better than making, I think, better than making the brass legs, which I could also do, as those stick-on legs they've got some adhesion to the surface table or whatever, and that won't go sliding around your table. So that's it. This was the first version of it. So prototype 1. I've got a couple of scraps downstairs I was working on, and I decided to give it a little bit of fancy dancy angle there. So this is prototype, or this is final 2, handmade double balance tack, dual balance bridge holders. Thank you very much. Keep watching my videos, please.